My name is Lauryn McCalley Niday, and I was born in Moultrie, Georgia in September of 1982. I was a gymnast from the age of 2, and the diving coach at that time was Lauryn, and he would always come into the gymnastics room looking for recruits, basically, to cross over into the diving program. And he found me, and one day I remember him specifically saying, I was about 8 or 9 at the time, he just basically told me, I think you're going to be way too tall to fit between the bars, so why don't you come over to the pool and try diving? And at the time I had a cousin that was actually randomly trying out diving herself, and so I remember going to watch, and they had the most awesome practice, is what it looked like to me. They were doing slipping slide off mats into the diving well, and I just thought, wow, this looks incredibly fun. And so I signed up, and from then on I was hooked. I loved it, every minute of it. Well, I think one of my strongest and biggest weaknesses is making a decision, and so I have a really hard time narrowing down, especially on big decisions, choosing one choice. So going into the senior year, I took 24 recruiting trips, and it's kind of hilarious because a lot of those were just duplicates. I would call the coach and say, can I come back and see your program one more time, because I cannot decide. The fall signing date came and it went, and I still had no clue. I was able at the time to rule out some of the California, Texas, and some of the northern states. I knew I did not do well far away from home, so I wanted to make sure that we were in range of driving. I could get home, and I didn't do well in cold. So I can narrow those down, but looking at the SEC, it was really hard for me because I had grown up from tiny watching these coaches coach, and I felt like all the SEC coaches and a lot of surrounding other coaches that were in the surrounding areas were almost like family by that point. And you know, it was hard to choose just one of them. So I just spent a little bit more time praying about the decision and asking the Lord to give me insight where I was supposed to be for the next 4 years, and I really came to a peace about signing with the University of Tennessee. It was right around the deadline that I had to decide for the spring deadline for signing, and it was a wonderful day when I was able to call up Dave Harrington and tell him that I would love to be a Tennessee volunteer for the next 4 years. I had several setbacks that I can remember. Most of mine were physical setbacks. Early on, I was a tower diver, and that was probably my favorite of the 3 boards. And the higher that I went, for some reason, the better I seemed to do. And so I loved it off 10. But because I seemed to enjoy it and was a little bit better off the top, I seemed to train it a little bit more, and unfortunately I broke my growth plate in my wrist pretty early on. I dove on it for several years throughout my high school career, and then my junior year it got so bad that I had to have reconstructive surgery on my wrist. So unfortunately it was a career-ending injury and setback, you know, but at that time, I wasn't really ready to be done with diving, but I think I overcame that last little setback by just being incredibly thankful for the memories and the blessings that, and the experiences that I'd had through diving. I think looking back on my career, some of the highlights that really stand out to me were, starts with my high school, 2 championships I won my junior and senior year, and I held the record for about 10 years, and I think that one's been broken a couple years ago now. But also within USA Diving, I had 18 gold medal national titles from within junior nationals, senior nationals, and synchro diving at senior national. And probably within those 18, there's probably 2 instances that really stand out. When I was my 14-15, my top year in 14-15, so I was 15, at junior nationals, I remember sweeping all 3 boards, tower, 1 meter, and 3 meter, and it was just an incredible experience, and I never thought that would ever happen to me, and just looking back on it, it was just such a special moment to look back on that meet and see that. And then my first senior national title is probably my most special to me. It was in Mission Viejo, and I remember thinking this is such a pressure meet because the Olympic team had already been picked, and this was going to be their last meet before they took them to the Olympics. And back at that point, I think they've stopped this now, but back at that point they had to compete nationally before they left to go to the Olympics. And there was such hype around this meet, and I had just come off junior nationals, which was out there in Mission, a week of that, and then we were turning right back around. You had to get back up for competition, and it was senior nationals. And you know, I was just a high schooler at this point, and I was a junior in high school, and looked up to a lot of the girls that I was competing against. And it was definitely one of those things where it was, you know, the Lord was so gracious. So it was the right place at the right time, and a lot of the girls, you know, were going on to the Olympics and were peaking for a later meet, but this was it for me. So I was peaking for this meet, and I ended up winning my first senior national title there that day. The other two moments that I can think of that I really stand out when I look back on my diving career is in 2004, I was selected as Glamour's top 10 women in the U.S., and that was a lot of fun to look back on that. And then also in 2005, the next year, I was chosen to be the NC2A Woman of the Year, and that was probably one of my favorites from my diving career, because it was neat to be up against all these amazing women athletes from across not just swimming and diving programs, but across multiple different disciplines of sports.